Hello, everyone. Thank you for jumping on our team call. We are so excited to have you. Tonight is going to be a little bit different. We are having a special topic presented to us, something that I'm really kind of interested in learning about because it's not something that I've ever done and it's nothing that I've ever studied. So I'm really excited that it is being brought to us. So it's on habit stacking. And I really don't know that much about it. I got like a little tidbit sneak peek. So, Jessica Vant is actually going to be our speaker tonight, which I'm so excited about. And she is a teacher by trade. So she's very good at conveying information. So I'm super pumped that she agreed to do this. When I heard that she was doing this like challenge and study, I was like, wait a minute. Like this sounds like something that we could use. So I'm super excited. So Jess, go ahead and take over and take as much time as you need. And then we will close out with our surprise tonight.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm so excited to share this information with you. Like Kate said, I've been doing a habit stacking challenge in one of my nutrition groups that I'm a part of. And Kate and I were talking about it on a coaching call one time. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. And we were joking about something. And she was like, wait a minute. Like, that sounds really cool. Maybe we can there's a way we can apply this to plexus. So then the more I started thinking about it and we started talking about it, I was like, wow, like this could be really neat. Um, so to start off, raise your hand if starting a new habit is easy for you. Do you like starting new habits? Is it easy for you to do something like that? Most everyone's probably like, not
No.
really for me, right? Like, not really that fun. What are some obstacles? Does anyone want to share like obstacles that you encounter when you're starting a new habit? Like, what are things that hold you back?
You go crazy mentally.
Okay.
It's hard to get off something.
Anyone else?
I always feel like because I'm such a routine person that when I try and incorporate something new that will like adjust the routine that I already have, I immediately feel overwhelmed until I figure out how to fit that in.
Totally. Anyone else? All right. So, a lot of times, why starting a new habit is so hard is because we have this goal in mind and then we try to figure out how we can get there the fastest way possible. So, let's say like you want to lose 30 pounds and you're like, okay, I'm going to eat like all the fruits and vegetables and I'm going to work out super hard. And like 2 days into like doing all of that, you're totally like fatigued, like you're done, you don't want to do it anymore. And a lot of that is because instead of trying to make small lifestyle changes, we try to change everything at one time. So the whole concept behind habit stacking is to make small changes and pair them with habits that you already have, and then you kind of build on those changes over time. So I love what Mel Robbins says. She says, you can't control how you feel, but you can always control how you act. And habits are basically what takes over when we have no motivation, and they tell us exactly the actions that we have to complete. So, no one has to tell you to get up every day and brush your teeth. That's a habit that you have already built into your schedule. So, even when you're not motivated, chances are you get up and you complete that action because there's no guesswork behind it. You know that that's part of your routine, that's what you have to do. So, James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, which is probably going to be the next book that I'm going to read. If you are interested in this topic and you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. But he says, wouldn't it make sense that if we wanted to form new habits, the best way to start would be to make tiny changes that our brain could quickly learn and automatically repeat? So that's kind of where the habit stacking comes in, is having something that your brain automatically just goes to and you can just complete those tasks. So like I said, I learned about habit stacking from a nutrition challenge that I'm in, and I'm just going to show you the little chart. I don't know, this is not very good, but so you can see this was a 6-week challenge, and we started out with water was our first habit. So the goal was to meet your water goal for the whole 42 days of the challenge. So every day that you met that goal, you would just like make a little tally on the chart. And then, once you're like feeling good about yourself, like after the 7 days, like, all right, I got that one down, then you introduce the next habit. So for us, it was like fruits and vegetables. You had to have a certain amount. And then you would just keep like checking it off. And the whole concept wasn't really about being perfect. It was more about having more check marks than not. So like just making more change than not over the course of the 6 weeks. And I really loved it because it wasn't like everyone had to do the same thing. So it was very generic in terms of what the habits were, like water, for example. But that didn't mean that like my water goal had to be the same as someone else's. So it was like very individualized as to like what our goals were and what we wanted to accomplish. But yet we could still like all participate in something like as a group and encourage each other. So I thought that that was really neat. So for this challenge, we did each habit was 1 week. And then after the 7 days, you would stack the next habit. So for the duration of the 6 weeks, we had 6 different habits that we were working on. And the way the person that did this structured it, I think they put the most difficult habit last so that you only had 7 days that you had to maintain that habit, because it was probably going to be more difficult for everyone across the board. Instead of making that habit like week 2, then you have to maintain that habit for the next 4 weeks. So there's definitely a lot of flexibility in how you set up your habit stacking chart. And this is just effective because it tells you exactly what action that you have to do. When you're not motivated or you don't have time, you know exactly the task that you need to complete. And a lot of people are really motivated by just checking things off of a list, because there's no like thought behind that. And then you feel like, oh, well, I accomplished this today, even though I didn't really want to do anything else. So like I said, there's no guesswork in the everyday habits such as showering and brushing our teeth. So James Clear suggests that any habit changes that you want to make, you pair them with a habit that you already have. So I really want to work on listening to personal development. So every day after I brush my teeth, I'm going to listen to personal development for 10 minutes. So I already know that every day I'm going to brush my teeth, and then I'm programming my brain that every day after I brush my teeth, this is what I'm going to do. So that's kind of that's kind of his concept behind it. That's not the way we did it for the challenge that I did, but from looking into Atomic Habits, that's kind of what he goes into in his book. So I thought that that was pretty interesting. So how can we apply all of this to our Plexus businesses? That's the real question, right? Everyone wants to know. So one thing that I started thinking about the other day was, the beginning of month rolls around and we're all like, oh, I want to reach this rank, or I want to do this, or I want to do that this month. And that's like all great. But I think too, we need to step back and ask ourselves, like, what habits do I need in order to reach that goal? So, like I really want to be senior gold, and that's great. But what habits do I need in order to get to be senior gold? What do I need to keep doing that I was doing, but also what habits maybe do I need to adopt so that I can continue to move my business forward? So some ideas that I came up with for creating your own habit stack is just some things that like I know like that I would like to work on in my business. So one thing was like checking perk points. I don't do that very well, so that would probably be like one of the first things I would put on my habit stacking list, so that I could maintain that for a longer period of time. Following up, whether that be with ambassadors, whether that be with potentials, posting in your Facebook stories if that's something that you've never done before. Or I know for myself, I'm really trying to do more videos in my Facebook stories. I'm not really like comfortable with that. So that would probably be something that I would include in a habit stack. Really anything like that's an IPA, you know, if messaging is something that a habit that you want to work on, you know, maybe you would put that in your habit stack. And maybe you're like, oh, well, you know, I'm good at messaging. I send my 3 messages a day. But sometimes when you're going for a big goal, you need to increase some of your habits. So maybe you're like, okay, I'm going for this goal. So maybe I'm going to try to do, you know, 5 messages a day or 6 messages a day or whatever the case may be. So everyone's habit stack always looks different. But everyone can still encourage each other in doing it because the categories are so broad, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So everyone can have different goals and keep the categories nice and broad. So like I said, if you're interested in learning more, definitely check out Atomic Habits. I'm definitely going to be ordering it very soon. And I just love this concept of just adding one new thing at a time instead of trying to take on so much at once, to keep that overwhelmed feeling down. So that's it.
Awesome. Does anybody have, I have a couple things I want to comment on, but does anybody have any questions or any comments for Jess before I go? If you do, go ahead and unmute yourself. Feel free to pick her brain a little bit.
So do you think that you just, I mean, do we do this for the same 42 days or do we just like try to adopt this, or it's going to become a habit if we try it, you know, like for our IPA and all that kind of stuff or whatever we need help with?
Yeah, I mean, I think anything that you try to do on a consistent basis is always going to move you forward in some sort of way. You know what I mean? So, I mean, to me, like for some of these habits that we had to do for this specific challenge, I thought like a week might not be enough because you might need more time to feel comfortable with a habit before you move on to the next thing. Because the whole point is to be secure in something before you move on to the next habit so that you're not overwhelming yourself. I hope that makes sense. So, you know, it might be a little bit of a longer time frame. There really is no structure to it. This was just the structure that was chosen for this particular challenge that I was doing. Kate and I did talk about like doing a habit stacking challenge. But this month we felt like there was just way too much going on. So maybe if people are interested for December, you know, we could do something like that. I think it would be pretty cool. But did that answer your question, Mary?
Yeah, because I find that, you know, when I get into these challenges, I feel like it forces me and I stay more on track than, oh, you know, like, oh, well, there's no challenge this month, you know, so I'll just, you know, I'm slacking a little bit. Oh man, I haven't posted today or something, you know, but I'm trying to use these things to gain consistency in my business so that I won't just like, oh, well, you know, yeah, it's beginning of the month. You know, I don't really need to push it that hard right now. But, you know, I've changed my mindset on that. And this sounds like a really good thing to help with that. Yes, I love it.
Thank you. I just want to say one other thing too. You know, when things in your life aren't going the way you want, you will fall back on these habits naturally. So, you know, if you start going through a hard time or whatever, you know, I'm going through like a difficult time right now, but I'm finding that I'm naturally like falling back on a lot of these things that I've been working on. So it's just really interesting to see how when you do really create those habits, they do just become like natural actions because you just don't have to think about it. You're like, okay, this is what I do, you know, this is my routine. So that is pretty cool too.
Anybody else have any other questions for her? Oh, okay. So I love it. So this kind of like reminded me, if you've ever looked into Dave Ramsey at all, he does like the snowball method for debt. And this kind of reminded me because you were saying like, pick little things and do that, like pick a easier habit to start with. And that's kind of how he does like the pay down debt, because if you pick this smaller debt and you like pay that down, you feel like you're getting somewhere, right? If you picked your mortgage, you would feel like you were getting nowhere putting extra money on that. But if you picked like your last doctor bill, you will start seeing it come down and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, we're getting there. We're almost paid off. So that reminded me. And then I never really considered pairing a new habit with something that I already do. But then I was listening to you talk, and I always wanted to be good at like whitening my teeth. Like I always wanted to just be consistent with that. And I never did. Like, it was always like, I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to stand there with my like mouth open and all that stuff. And then I just started doing it. I would brush my teeth and I would literally pick up the whitening pen, like right after, pick up the whitening pen and do it. And it has literally turned it, because they go together so nicely. The other thing is like laundry. I will listen to, like you were saying, like motivational, videos or something while I do laundry, because I'm just standing there using my hands. Like I can listen, So I like that idea of matching your habits with something that you're already doing and starting slow. Like you don't have to pick the biggest, hardest habit to change in your entire life and then be upset when you don't conquer it in 7 days or 10 days or whatever. So I love this, and I would love to do, I don't know about you guys, I would love to, if Jess was willing to kind of head up a challenge in December or January, I would be excited for that. Anybody else? Last chance, pick your brain.
I will just say that I totally agree with the whole habits thing, how good they are when things get hard or your schedule gets thrown off. My husband and I were just talking about this. They did the men's challenge. And so he started getting into the habits of the workouts that they were doing and stuff. And then he added in bike riding. And it was before school started. And then when school started and his schedule was just like all kinds of crazy, like then he had these habits formed, and also the eating and whatever, he had already started those habits, which he wouldn't have been able to carry through when things got tough if he wouldn't have started before. So that's been like really good. And that's what I'm trying to do too, is like, I know my schedule has been crazy and totally different and unexpected. And I think if I would have had some good habits that I didn't have to think about, then it would have been easier to manage things, because when you have to think about those things, it just takes so much brain power when everything else is all going crazy. So yeah, we need good habits.
I love that. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Jess, for sharing with us. I really, really appreciate it. And I think everybody took a little something away from this. And I am looking forward to doing the challenge. So thank you.